Okay. Yes. So we'll call this meeting to order. I guess we'll rise and have the pledge of allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson. Katrina Binkowitz.
Here.
Doug Day.
Here.
Joseph Wetmore.
Here.
Edward Levine.
Here. So, a couple ground rules. This is a working meeting. There was no public input. This is just amongst the board members. The budget has been posted already, correct? This month's budget has already been put out, I think, on the web.
No, I misspoke on that. It wasn't put on the web because it's the tentative. It doesn't go on the.
Until it's the preliminary.
It was fine. I did not receive any phone calls. I thought if I received phone calls, I would make sure somebody got it, but no one called properly, so.
Okay.
I actually never put on for this one, so.
Well, once again, it's like,
Yeah, previous years I've never put on for this one.
I think it's, you know, I mean, you put it on, it gets changed, or may not get changed, the product get changed. Anyways, it's moving forward, I think, once we decide that it gets presented to be the preliminary, I think it's then eventually we can post it.
I'm not familiar with those
I don't have my,
I'm just following somebody else's instructions.
so as we move forward, Joe has some questions or some comments, so go ahead, Joe. I mean, for the rest of you and I have discussed some of these, but for the benefit of the rest of the board, go ahead.
Right, well, I passed out a sheet, which was essentially my email around, and Michael just walked our way through, in order.
Great.
And CJ corrected the amount on the front door in order to do the window part. It's an additional 15 over the 43.
You know, did you do what?
The window on the side to give people access to your office.
I did not, we weren't planning to do that.
You're not planning on doing that? Okay. That was the last I heard, was they were planning on making it so that people could get to your
Yeah, we
office.
just, I don't know, we decided not to do that. I don't know if I didn't get
So,
communicated or whatever.
so we're gonna get people in the front door, and your door to your office,
We were talking about putting a
button.
buzzer, just a buzzer or something.
a buzzer with a window.
We didn't want to have a window on the side. We really decided that was a
Okay.
bad idea because of all the people for court.
True.
They were in the hallway
That's
and
true.
stuff, and they could just totally like look right in their
Yeah.
office and decide we really didn't like that.
That makes sense.
So,
So, some way. Yeah. The court people.
we were talking about just having some kind of a buzzer thing that we could just run out and open the door for them if they needed help.
For assistance.
Yes.
Well, is that door wide enough for a wheelchair to get in, but they can't turn around? Is it
They
long?
have had we've had a wheelchair.
Because the other thing is you could put one of those automatic door opener things on it too, and have that door openable as well. I don't know how hard that is, or how expensive that would be. Yeah.
You have all those
It would be,
handicap.
be a cost.
Handles.
You can get, it can be done at a cost, obviously, you try $4,000 or $5,000 just for that. But I don't know if that's necessary, because there's no closer.
Like
Does it-
automatic
it was-
buzzer.
Does it shut after you walk in, or does it stay open?
It would stay open unless somebody shuts it.
Right, so theoretically, you can get in and out.
Just so long as we have.
Once they're in,
Some
it's no problem,
signage.
because if we need to, we can run out and help them get out, which we've done lots of
But it's
times.
having them stuck at the door if they're
Right.
coming in by themselves,
But
that's
they
the
could
issue.
just have a simple little doorbell, honestly.
Okay.
And kind of a
Please
little-
buzz for assistance.
Just some little buzzer doorbell.
That's fine.
That would be that.
I didn't see one.
So either way, are we gonna go forward with this even if we don't get the grant? I think that's the first question. And the second question is, I think we should put this in the budget as something we're intending on doing,
Regardless.
regardless either way, yeah.
Would that be whole town? That'd be whole town.
Every whole town, there should come out of reserve, because once again, what the goal is, unless the board decides differently, is to eventually have a ZBB, zero-based budget, where only the annual expenditures are the ones that you're going to tax the people on, unless you have a separate line for increasing reserve fund or something like that. Sometimes you have to bump up your reserves if they get low. So that's the whole purpose of the reserve fund, is that when you have these one-time expenses, that's why we've built up, we've maximized all the coffers. So we've accomplished that goal in a very quick time, as opposed to we're in front of our schedule as far as that goes.
Right.
I'm going to excuse myself for a minute. I want to go get my sheet that has all the reserves on it.
I would look for that right now. I
Okay,
can't do
pause
this
for
discussion.
reserves, because that seems like it could come out of the building improvement or whatever the official name.
Yeah,
Which we could put it into the budget that way.
yeah,
Yeah,
The only thing is
and it,
if the grants are gonna be paying for it, then,
then it just rolls back in, it doesn't come out of the reserve.
well, some of them will. Because we're only getting 30 for the 46,
right.
44,
Okay.
so.
So some would come out and some would just roll.
So do we want to put
back
that
in.
into the 162405R, which is the reserve?
That makes
Or
sense.
reserve. And then if the grant comes through, because if I put it into the R accounts,
Yes,
it doesn't affect the,
the rate,
right, it doesn't affect how much we have.
That
to
makes
raise.
sense.
So, I mean,
that's easy.
and then if it doesn't come out of reserve, it doesn't, if the grant does come in and.
Yeah, then we just leave it in reserve.
Yeah, and the ones would just stay in reserve, but we don't need it.
That makes sense.
So how much are you putting in there?
I think the whole,
43,000.
All around. And budget with the R.
So is this the same number here as this, that you see that on right after?
Mhm.
And that's.
yeah, it's fun. And it's how all of them are. If we
Oh,
took-
okay.
If we took something out of reserve, you would put an R in it.
Okay.
So you see the gap. There's-
Okay.
So it's, I mean, here it's been used before for that equipment.
So 405R.
So 1625.
So that we won't affect the rate, the whole amount is in there, in case we don't get the
Right.
grant, which we probably, and then if we get the grant, we just take what we need out of it and leave the rest in the reserve.
Right, and then we should, be building those reserves
Yeah.
back up over time.
Absolutely.
Where do we?
Well, we
Yes,
see-
we might already at the max of what we wanted them to be, as far as I understood.
And we can, as a board might decide to increase the max for building repair, considering there might be other major repairs.
If we've got an extra copy, can we put this out for the audience to be able to use?
This is a working session, Joe, okay? I mean, there's stuff,
This is our information.
it's our information, and when it's available to the public, we post it so everybody can see it at the same time, once we finalize certain things.
I don't see why the public can't look at
I
it.
don't get to argue with you, Joe, let's move on, okay?
So what we discussed while you left is if I put the 43,000 into 1620.405R into the budget, that won't affect what has to be raised,
Mhm.
because it comes out of reserve. That's what
Exactly.
That's what that does. So if we want to put that 43,000 in under that, it's not going to change any,
For the door.
yes.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to put anything into the grants, because we haven't received it yet.
Right,
And we don't show revenues that we don't know we're getting.
so when we get the grant, it goes into the grant line.
If we had been awarded it already by now,
Then we-
no problem. But if it's not awarded, then we don't put it in as revenues.
So it would go in under the next year's
It would be in the 2020 year's
as
budget as a reward.
plus, as an award of grant.
My understanding is we can put it in as anticipated, and if we don't get it, we just, don't count that as revenue while coming in. Again, it shows the intention, we're intending on getting this grant, we're likely to get it. So we put it in the revenue side, balanced off by the expense side of hoping to use it for the roads.
Because the revenue side is projected.
don't recommend it.
I agree with you. I mean, you're hoping for this, and the reality is you already have the money in reserve for that.
We're showing them that we intend for it to happen regardless.
Exactly. I mean, if you want to put a footnote down at the bottom, this is what the, you know, if you want to do a whole page of footnotes of different scenarios, but the bottom line is the budget is designed to show what the projections are. And I don't think grants are a little bit different than other ones, because the other revenue streams you have a consistent history, where the grants don't. And if you've ever done grants, you know that there is no sure thing for the grant.
So I do think a note, especially in reference to reserves, is important for people reading the posted budget, right?
The
And
only-
then they don't.
The only thing-
They might say that's a lot of money for the door project, and we're saying,
Well, if you want to put like a page of notes as far as these are what the
Just the
intents
reserves.
are.
So who's going to be doing that? I've never done the page of notes. I'm not an English major, I'm not going to be writing all this up. I don't.
Yeah, somebody wants to do it. Once again, this is projection where I think that the budget's a little bit different than that. We've already made, with our reserve fund, that's where the money would come from.
I think the public will just be happy to see it in there as a budget expense, as a reserve budget expense.
I mean, if it's in the reserve already,
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was intended for. That's how the system's supposed to work. One-time expenses are supposed to be in a pocket of money over here so that you don't have a drastic change for the taxpayers.
so.
I mean, these changes that we're making today is going to have to go into a resolution for the first time that I've ever been aware of, which this perfectly makes sense to me that it'll be all clear for everybody, every change that we're making. So that will be in those notes.
Okay, so the resolution is a note,
Okay.
So that should show
documentation,
everything,
that should
yeah.
show- Yeah.
So we get the grant, and then money just stays in that reserve?
Yeah, we would not take so much out because the grant would cover that portion of the expense.
Right, the grant money goes into a grant line, which would be used, and then
We
we
don't
need
get the
like,
grant.
It all comes out of reserve.
so if the project happens regardless.
I understand.
That's the point where, yeah.
So we're not taking that amount, the grant is back up reserve. Or, we're not.
Yeah, no, we would just take the difference out of the reserve.
Right.
So that takes care of the front door.
Good with that one?
Myers Park.
If we get that grant, I'm not sure how we're going to do our labor match.
Labor as in, what number are we talking labor?
223,000.
Of labor each year match. This is broken up over time though, in 2 years.
The labor is 447, broken into 2 years, it showed 23 a year.
And in talking with Cricket and
Yeah.
Pat, they're maxed out on the work they're currently doing, so how, in your discussions, how did you discuss?
The number that comes to mind is, I think it was like 96,000 over 3 years for this, like 32,000 a year. And that is something that I thought they would have clarity here from CJ when she did this grant. But most of this is in kind.
There's in-kind labor and in-kind supplies, right? Which makes it
Equipment.
Equipment. So every time that truck runs, it goes towards that in kind.
That's the 149,000 for equipment, because the way the grant was written, it was 75%. We're doing a match at the 596. 75% of that's labor, 25% of it's equipment. I did the math there.
So we still need to make sure that our departments can actually have the time, manpower to allocate for that.
Yeah, I mean, are we hiring additional people for this project?
I don't see how you can. I don't know how we do it otherwise.
Because you won't be able to maintain services and do the, like, for instance, the highway department has the water stuff to do on top of their other regular jobs, so.
But plus the road work. and-
So if, yeah. So even if it's a temporary, but if it's a one time, if it's related to a grant with a time frame,
The grant is on a time
I think it's a 2-year grant.
It's a 2-year time
I
frame.
think it's 2, I was thinking 3,
frame.
and
So
I'm not
this
sure.
is so based on performance. So if in 2 years it's not done.
I don't know the details.
I mean, we need our match, because if we don't match, then we have to be out of pocket for,
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly all the individual projects.
CJ, this is Ed. I'm gonna put you on speakerphone. We need some little clarity on this grant for Myers Park. Are you comfortable talking on speakerphone?
during meeting,
Yeah.
full disclosure.
Yeah, we're all in meeting.
Okay, so we have some concerns here. I thought we went over this with Joe and you in your office, but let's get some clarity here as far as this Myers Park grant goes, okay? So town board members, one at a time, go ahead and ask the questions.
Okay, my understanding is we've got to match the 596 in the grant. 75% of that's going to go towards labor and 25% of that's going to go towards equipment. And it's a 2-year grant. Am I correct on all that?
I think it's 2020 through 2022.
So it's 3 years.
Oh,
okay.
that's helpful. Nice, thank you. That helps me. So 3-year
Okay,
spread.
then, yes, that's correct.
So that 447 match on labor would be over 3 years instead of over 2 years.
Yes, I believe that's correct, and then also there was like a $99,000 cash match also.
So,
Like 96 or something like that.
Okay,
96 and change.
cash match.
Is that one time at the beginning, one time over 3 years?
3 years.
We have to do it each of 3
I
years?
have to think, I'm not sure exactly whether this is a reimbursement grant. I'm not sure exactly how this is paid out.
Okay.
So it could be
Off
paid
the top
out,
of my head.
so it could be paid out over 3 years or per year, is that, or you're not sure?
As far as I'm aware, yes, because I think it's reimbursement, but I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head.
All right.
I'd look and get back to you though, for sure.
The other question I have is this 75% labor over 3 years. Does this include any fees that are engineering or legal that would come out of a different line? We're trying to figure out if,
Yep. Yep, that on the administrative piece of the contract and as well as design is covered by the cash match, from what I recall. And the budget was attached to the, one of the previous emails I sent. So it should be there in that email thread, the budget itself.
Is this a
The
grant,
project budget, I mean.
okay.
is this a grant where we have to do everything, or if we only do part, we get a partial award?
Well, the assumption would be that we would probably receive the entire award, unless, Parks or EPF scaled it back, scaled the project back themselves. But yeah, we would assume the entire scope of work, which, was sent after we submitted the CFA. But I can send that again if you'd like to see it. And there is you have seen the request for proposal for the consultant, but you haven't seen the full application in, I don't know, 2 months since we submitted in late July, so you may just not recall.
That's separate. So
Yeah, it's attached to that email thread of the
Yeah.
budget.
I guess the question we're having here is, upon talking to Pat and Cricket, they're concerned about having staff to allocate, enough staff to allocate for the project without additional hire. So we're trying to see if the budget needs to reflect that to accomplish it.
Okay, so this was the underlying assumptions, essentially going into the project that were carried over from the 2 previous budget iterations of this project. Is that the highway department would be doing a bulk of the construction
Right, I agree, that's what
That's
our
what I'm
assumption
led
was.
to believe, but perhaps that is not correct.
Well, I think they have the capacity to do it in the sense of skills, but they're looking at total project allocation now, which is causing the concern.
Okay, yeah, absolutely, and I think that's the question is, the project would be broken down over 3 years, and a significant part of it would be design, at least the first 6 to 9 months of the project will be putting out the request for proposal and then getting all the drawings done to put it out, essentially.
So basically,
We
it's,
could put the project out to bid, if highway was not, comfortable with making that kind of time allocation, we would just have to bid out the project, essentially, we could see what the bid numbers came to.
And honestly, we can't budget for these expenses when we don't have the grant.
Right, that's the hard
So,
part.
you know, it comes right around to that thing, and if this grant hasn't been awarded, we can't put expenses in that are for a project that we haven't been awarded yet.
So we'll have to figure,
Well, I'm just trying to figure out at this point, what can we do if we get the grant? Do we have money to actually follow through with it?
Absolutely. It's plenty of fund balance.
all right,
It's mostly in
so we'll
funding,
figure it
yeah,
out
mostly
when the
in
grant
time.
comes in.
And this is, I essentially did not scrutinize the budget numbers very closely in terms of what the planning consultant, Mike Long, had generally prepared as part of the project. So I assumed that the Beardsley numbers and the folks who came up with the original budget scheme was, on the up and up, and that highway was so committed to that kind of in-kind labor. So I may have been mistaken in carrying that over, and perhaps not talking to Crooked completely about this allocation, so.
So let me give you some background here. If you're looking at the labor part, which is
Okay.
447,000, right? Roughly, and that's over 3 years, let's
I
say.
think that, that sounds right, that sounds correct.
It is, so let's say for simple math, it's 450. Okay, so it's 450,000 over 3 years, which is 150 a year. Did that make sense so far, CJ? This is a
Yeah.
three-year project. The 150,000, if we're charging $30 an hour, which is, on average, we're pretty close to what our guys get paid. That's 5,000 hours. If they all work, all 14 of them, it's 50, if my math is correct, it's roughly about 9 weeks a year.
To hire people for that.
Or you allocate people off of your, because we have, the other thing you have to keep in mind is that we have part-time people in the summer, and we have different departments that can do different things there. So you have different crews. Not everybody's gonna be working on the same thing here. So you can do part if you want, or you can do all highway, we'll see where it goes, or not. Because you can allocate every man and woman to that thing in the highway department, but the problem is you're not gonna have enough work for them all at the same time. So that's the other part, is that as we do this in kind, it's gonna be generated, just like, for instance, when they're working on the Salmon Creek right now. Not everybody is down there doing it, there's a few people. So a lot of this could be partly town, and partly could come from our fund balances, which are healthy, or not. Either way, I think it's doable. But to have Charmaine's point, we can't put in the budget the fact that we may have so much to do because we simply don't know if we get the grant in the first place. And the other thing is that if this is such a great project, there's certain projects we can delay a year if we have to and move this one up because it's a priority. I mean, the other thing Cricket does is he prioritizes certain things that can wait a year and certain ones that can't wait a year and move things forward. So there's a lot of different things we can do with this, and I'll be happy to.
Yeah, and
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to that point, the highway department, we can essentially, wait to see whether the grant is essentially awarded or not, because the first 6 to 9 months of next year will be putting the RFP out for the consultant, interviewing consultants, selecting a consultant, and then having them do the drawings. We'll know, we won't even really start until late fall. We have the permitting, which is good for a while, from Army Corps and DC, but they won't really do any actual work until probably the end of summer, early fall of next year. So if that helps balance out the way that the in-kind service would be lent to this particular project, then, then we can kind of just wait and see whether the grant is awarded in the second week of December.
So let me give you some more information here for everybody, is the fact that when we look at our fund balances, if we have to pay out for some of this to do that, our fund balances are at 6 months right now. We've done the projections for the year. It looks like we're still going to maintain a 6-month fund balance as on top of what our expenses are. Those are roughly, every month is $250,000. So if we go from a 6 months down to a 4 month, worst case scenario, you just found $500,000 to cover it if you had to. I'm not suggesting we do that, I'm suggesting we don't do any of that. But if you're looking for, once again, the worst case scenario, there is money in that fund balance to do some of this stuff if we had to kick in cash to do that.
And we would then have the option of rolling perhaps part-time person at Parks and Rec, say, into a full-time during the duration of, if we needed that, during the duration of the grant.
Well, there are. I mean, for instance, you can roll in part-time people, which are very inexpensive for the summer, and still get that free up people to go elsewhere. And these sheets are the 6 months that you have for your fund balance projections, just to give you an idea of what 6 months of fund balance is there. So, once again, when we went over these things, we always had it covered, worst case scenario. It's just a matter of where the money was going to come from, and if it had to come from in kind, that's the best way to do it if some of these other projects could be postponed or delayed or whatever. That's the Cricket's call also. He's the guy that can shed a lot of this light into this. But getting back to the budget, I don't think we can earmark stuff in there but what we can do is at least be conscious of there's money in the fund balance for the worst case scenario.
And we may have to make some adjustments.
We have the option to do that, which is nice.
I mean, if it's awarded in December 2021, budget will definitely show these, increase in salaries. And if we start using them at the end of 2020, it's not a long time for that year to have some of that money.
I'm wondering, it sounds like it's not going to be split over 3 years. It sounds like it's going to mostly be split over the final 2 years.
We don't know that, and I'm not going to assume that.
Where does the money, CJ, where does the money come out for the planning and the submittals and all that? Is that all through the labor number?
Yes, that's the cash match generally. The cash match is going to cover the design and engineering fees, architectural fees, AE for the project. And then also grant administration and other kind of like administrative minutia for the project over the course of that 3 years. But I imagine that the bulk of next year will be towards design and engineering and architecture essentially. And maybe they'll give them some grading, maybe, next year. So there may be an opportunity to have some in kind in this next year.
But that's all.
At least that's kind of how I see it.
But that's part of the 3 year grant.
Yeah, so we have the $96,000 cash match, and then we have another, I want to say 490 something or 480 something in kind labor, and that could be of any stripe. We didn't break it down by specific job types either. Just that the in-kind labor would be 75% of the match, of that 50% match.
And is there,
That's helping.
once the grant, say the grant is awarded, is that 3 year quick calendar start right then?
It typically starts from the execution of the contract, which is generally in January or February of the year following the award, so 2020.
Right.
Coming January or February 2020.
And then is that based on a performance thing after that? So if we don't get it done in 3 years, is there a performance issue with that, or does it affect the grant at all?
So generally speaking, the award lengths are usually twice as long as the project is anticipated. So the DEC will likely say, yeah, you have 6 years to complete this project. But they're not, they also are regularly grant project extensions. Just like this is very similar to the WQIP project you're working on with Dawkins County Soil and Water. This is a similar type of program.
Okay.
That's
So
it.
that, you know, that is time labor, it's a very similar deal. Like, it's just Hopkins County standing in basically for the state. It's just a different part of the agency that's giving, of the DEC that's granting these projects.
You're talking about Salmon Creek right now?
Yeah, exactly. It's a similar kind of in-kind match process.
Where we're fronting the money
Right.
and then the allocation catches up from the state.
Exactly. I think this is a reimbursement grant, but let me check. I don't recall off the top of my head. It's unsafe for me to do so right at this moment.
Understand you're in
I don't
transit.
need one.
I think funding, work allocation wise though, because it's not gonna actually kick in for the highway parks till a little bit later, the fall, as we talked about. Then they can see it a year out and, like you say, adjust the workload and not take on new big projects, knowing that this has to be completed.
I think part of what my mind is, that, you know, we have this $900,000 fund balance that we keep saying is there to cover all these things. Is there some way we can start saying, all right, we're kind of setting this part,
Put more in reserve.
we're setting this aside for that so that we don't
Well-
spend it twice?
We can do that
Well, you
next
won't
year.
do it because you're the board.
We
I
can-
mean,
we can
but what
do
you
it.
can do is say, for instance, you have a 6-month fund balance policy. This falls within that 6 months, if that's what the number is, it looks like it's gonna be pretty close to it. If that's the case, you can say to yourself, okay, we need to allocate so much. If you wanna make a different line on it, I don't know why you would, but you say, okay, we have to keep this much off to one side just in case. That's one of the reasons when we did these grants, we went through these numbers and crunched the worst case scenario to say, are we going to overextend ourselves? And the answer was
Part of the
no. Are we doing, this irresponsible? The answer is no. Is this an opportunity to really make this park really great and use the assets we have, which is a great highway department, and still be able to adjust the money as we go because we have a big pot of money? Yes. So as we go through, we just have to be conscious of, okay, this 984 that's in there, or whatever that's in there, we may have to say, let's go down to 5 months instead of 6, and that 1 month of 250,000 between your A and your DA, that's something that we're going to earmark for next year, not
For
touch it.
labor.
I mean, we're still trying to keep 6 months at a time, and this is one of those, if you put it in a reserve, I mean, it's fine, you want to make a reserve out of it, but why don't we see if we get the grant first? If we get the grant first, then we can earmark this money to be comfortable with.
I know, what I'm saying is we keep saying, we can always take this out of reserve. And if we do that too many times, there's no reserve left, as I want to kind of.
I'm not saying it's a reserve, this is like your fund balance policy, this is
That's
different.
right, fund balance. So if we keep saying, well, we can cover this with fund balance, we can cover this fund balance, at some point we may discover that we've, decided to spend more fund balance than was there.
No.
That's where we're.
No. I mean, let me just say this one more time, so, no. One of the things we do when we track this every month is we track these fund balances and everything.
No, I'm saying when we sit here around the table and say, well, the Myers Park money, well, we've got 47, we got enough in fund balance that we
It
can
could
cover.
come out of the fund balance until we get the grant monies to come in. It doesn't have to be reflected in the budget, is what I'm saying, is it would be a rolling thing.
Because it's a grant,
It's,
so it's not.
I'm not gonna use fund balance and just, throw it away. It would be used because we know we're getting the grant money.
And what I'm saying is, when the board sits here and talks about, all right, we've got enough fund balance that we can cover this expense should we get the grant. And then we go on to the next item and say the same thing. Are we spending more fund balance than we have?
No, because, okay, two different topics. The door was out of reserves.
Yeah, I know that.
This is talking about is the fund balance that we have, our policy. The first one was out of a reserve we had. So now you're talking two different pots of money. Well, okay, but you say this, but then you say, are we going to spend this down? The answer is no, because we're conscious of what the numbers are, And as the grant comes in, you're gonna have to adjust where you go, and you have your pot of money to do
And
that.
I think we have been conservative in selecting 6 months as our goal.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
So if we go down to
I don't know
5
yet.
months to address completion of something, which has a lot of unknowns in it, I don't think that's unreasonable.
CJ, are you still in transit?
Yeah, I'm here.
I don't want to shut you off, on the other hand, I don't want to keep you here if it's unnecessary.
Can we talk quickly?
I'm just listening.
Can we keep her for the Parks and Rec Trail Master Plan?
This is all teachable moments, so you take as much time until she has to pull off I-81, and I don't know, we might lose you.
So are we done with the grant one?
Can we jump to Parks and Rec while we have her on the line, since I don't think she wants to be part of the camera conversation? So, Parks, Recreation, Trails Master Plan, we have not budgeted any money for the master plan. We need to come up with a total of 94. This, we can get the 44 that we've already put in the Trailways Reserve. We have been putting 15 in yearly, and so we need to get the extra 50 over a 2-year period. If we count the 15 from 2020 and 2021, that's 44 plus 30 gets us to 74. So we need another 10 per budget year. Can we get that out of the, we had a consultant line with 30, how much was in the consultant line?
30 sounds right.
Consultant for what?
What we were paying our planning consultant out of. And because this is for consultancy, can we take an additional 10 per year out of that? Out of the
So this is
30?
coming out of B fund?
Keep in mind that the trail is an A fund,
Yeah,
and so we're doing townwide.
Right.
the consultant line's in the fund.
Okay, the consultant line is in the B fund, but the consulting that occurs under that did affect some whole town plan, correct? Because that was applied towards the sewer planning and that type of stuff, so that was kind of a whole town
Correct.
planning.
So-
So some of the activity is whole town.
Right, so, personal opinion is that if it is whole town, it should be an A fund discussion,
Yes.
and not a B fund discussion.
Okay, so we would need to come up with
Let's see what you have.
10,000 a year extra, more than we already have allocated in the reserve, plus the 15 we would put in. We've been putting 15 into that every year, so we would need another 10 per year.
Do we have the 15 going into the reserve in the budget already? I don't think so.
We usually do the reserve allocation after the budget.
Yeah,
When we see what we have.
correct. We make the adjustments at the end of the year, as far as that goes, from fund balance and other things. That's why last year, when we had an excellent year, we accelerated everything. And moved a lot of money because we had an excellent year, we accelerated it to get where we are now. Now, with the park plan, whatever, we're at 44. And CJ, are you still there?
Yeah,
Okay, so for the master plan, what was the total price of that? I'm sorry to test.
94
Was it 94, something like that?
over 2
Yep.
years.
that's correct.
Okay, over 2 years. We have 44 now, so you're basically looking at, if my math is right, 47 a year, correct? That's not half of 94. And so from that, you're gonna take 22 a year, I thought was the plan, out of the reserve. So that means you're gonna have to come up with 25 more a year.
But we're still, in our minds, allocating money into that, but it can go directly to payment.
You can allocate it in and kind of have it come right back out if you want, or you
It
can,
can
either
just go
way.
straight over.
Either
If
way,
you say 6 and I
So
say
that's-
half a
so
dozen,
that-
I'll go with 6.
That, based upon our previous year's allocations, has been 15 a year, which would be another 30, so we have 44 plus 30,
Mhm.
which means we still need 20,000 over 2 years.
Mhm.
So how would you like to, you said you wanted that to be all town,
it's gotta be A fund, yeah.
A fund.
And then we should show that we're taking money out of the reserve in the budget as well.
Well, yes, of course.
I mean, this is an important thing because we cannot do all the grant money. The reason why we're doing this is because it's related to the master plan for Parks and Rec and Trails.
Mhm.
And all the money you can get via grants occurs after this gets done.
Yes.
So this is,
Yeah.
this is the big A part of that whole, I mean, no, reserve was A. We're at the B phase of making things happen in a sensible, planned way.
The bulkhead,
Yes,
which is 45,000. That's a one-time shot, right? Now, that comes out of your reserve, I think you have in here for that, I think. Might be under repairs, might be
Is
under,
Marina not repaired?
well, which kind of repairs would be? Do you have one for Marina? Or would it come out of general?
We have 48,000, no, that's
I thought I saw it here.
not. 45,000 under Marina repairs.
What's the number?
7110, 410, page 3.
Okay, that's what's allocated to raise this year, right? That's an expense.
Uh-huh.
And in the repair reserve fund, would the Marina fall under repair reserve fund?
so then you could free up something in that part of the line.
45,000. You put it on a repair reserve fund, which is a repair.
Repair,
Does the Marina fall under that?
Do we have definitions that are written out for all of these, or is it just?
This is what we're trying to ascertain. I mean, it's pretty general.
I always thought the repair reserve was more for this town hall building and those kinds of repairs, but I could be wrong.
Well, I totally agree with you. That's what
Because
my
that seems to be
impression
stretching it.
was. But if that's the case, then, okay, are you going to allocate some of this out of fund balance this year, and allocate some of this out of fund balance next year?
Or we could just increase the allocation to Parks and Trails by 10 instead of doing 50.
Which is just a transfer.
It's
of
just a
money. It has
transfer.
nothing to do with
The
budget at all.
Yeah, so we could just, I'm just get us
This
to
is more
agree on
accounting than
process.
budgetary.
Yeah, so we could do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The question came up and I just,
No, this is all money well, I think well spent,
yeah,
this part, because this is exactly where we want to be.
this is planning future, yeah, pulls it all together.
So I guess.
So it doesn't affect the budget, is what you're saying.
So I mean, instead of transferring 15,000 a year, we want to do 25,000 a year?
Mhm.
That would cover that.
Okay. But this has nothing to do with the budget,
No.
so.
No.
Okay.
Or we're just.
That's something that would need to be
answering
decided later when you do a resolution for transferring into
Right.
questions.
reserves.
Just make a note for future.
Okay.
Right.
So that's all we know what we're doing.
We found the money, because we're gonna just do it as part of increasing the reserve later, when we increase reserves, to allocate to reserves, not during the budget time, it's not a budget thing, it happens in December.
Actually, it happens in February, we finally get
Middle
our
of
final,
winter,
yeah,
right.
and we get our final numbers, here's the pot of money left over.
So I'm just checking this off as we've talked about where we're going
Yeah.
with this, it does not affect the budget.
But we should show that we're taking money out of the reserves and have the expense in our budget, because we're gonna have that next year, right?
That is true. So how do we do that?
Take it out of the reserves and put it back in again in February?
What you're gonna do is when we do these budgetary changes, there'll be documentation when they're in the resolution.
So, yes.
When it happens?
That's where the document, I mean, if you're concerned about documentation, which is fine, it happens in the resolution. All these things should be spelled out in the resolution when we do these things.
So the resolution will be about this hiring of the consultant planner, or putting out the RFP for this.
And the resolution's gonna cover any changes.
Yes,
Okay, it's gonna cover any changes that we're gonna make to the budget. So my question is, for this, is this coming out of A fund or B fund, and how much needs to be done for 2020?
Well, there's two ways you can look at it in 47. I would myself do 25. It's like 25 we're going to have to come up with every year. I do 25 a year. You have a reserve here of 44.
For the budget? I'm talking about what's the expense going to be for 2020? What, I
the
don't,
total expense, because that's what we put in the budget, an expected expense.
That's where CJ comes in. The expense of this project for this master plan, does it have to be paid all at once? Does it have to be paid over 2 years? What do we need, do you think?
It looks like 47 if you split it into 2 years.
Yeah, it would be about, so So the request for proposal that you've seen, that has that kind of scope of work laid out for the project itself has a little bit of a timeline in it that we essentially were gonna fill out after the town board essentially decided whether they wanted to even move forward with a project of this scope and magnitude essentially. So of the 94,000, the project will probably end up commencing in June and running through the following December. So in terms of how those payments would be made to consultants, it would be 18 months from the middle, essentially, of next year, the middle of 2020.
So we might need 40 essentially, because it's only a partial year, the first part, and we have that in our reserve.
Right, exactly. So we don't necessarily need to do anything about this year. If you
Well, you
like
want-
to wait and see kind of how the planning process goes, if we get any good consultants, maybe we'll put the request for proposal out on New York State Contract Reporter and we'll get responses. I doubt it, but we will always allow for that possibility. So I'd say the project in terms of how the budget would be spent would be split pretty evenly between the 2 years by the time we actually hire a consultant.
If we put the 44,000 in the budget and put in that we're taking it out of the reserves, then we don't have to deal with the permissive referendum should we move forward.
Oh, because it's in the budget,
'Cause it's
and
in the
everybody
budget.
knows about it.
Everybody already knows about it, which makes it easier to actually spend the reserve.
In the time that you want to spend it.
Yeah.
That'll be.
Yeah, so if you just put the usual 15 in this year, then that will cover us for the 2020 based on what's already in that reserve budget. That will take it to whatever, 59,000.
So
Well, I think if I'm reading the tea leaves here, I think what the board wants is a little bit of clarity as to where the money's going. So once again, if you put in the resolution that, you'll allocate 44,000 this year for budget for your master plan, that gives us some clarity. It also gives us some clarity, it gives us some time, because if we don't really know until you said June of next year, before we start to send these things out, is that correct?
Well, my anticipated timeline will follow staggered with, and I talked with Pat about this timing of the 2 requests for proposals we'd be putting out, right? So assuming we get the grants for Myers Park, we'll, right after the holidays, go over that scope of work, make sure it matches what we've gotten from the state in terms of that entire project, whether it's been funded or not. Maybe they'll scale it back, maybe not. Maybe we'll just go with the current scope as proposed. We'll do that immediately after. Then we have to do, weeks of questions and answers. We'll do a walkthrough with people at the park. Most of this is articulated in that scope of work you've seen for the Myers Park Waterfront Redevelopment Project. That's what that RFP is called. And so then after that, after going through that process, then we'll do the bigger one for the parks, trails, parks, recreation, and trails master plan, a month or 2 thereafter, and I anticipate that starting in probably April, and maybe we would award that in, June of that year, so that we would stagger these 2 kind of significant processes, but they can also inform each other, right? The responses we're going to get from the Myers Park project could possibly inform what we'll be seeing and what we'll be asking for as part of the Parks Master Plan. We're essentially allowing the opportunity for those projects to inform each other. So, I don't know that.
No, you're fine,
Here,
so-
but there's not, okay, so there's not crystal clear dates that have been selected for these because we really didn't even know if any of this would be funded through the budget process. I'm hoping we win the grant, right, and I'm hoping these projects it's okay then to pull out of that capital reserve, but, obviously this is a process. I don't know whether this will be funded or not, so we kind of left those dates open, but they'll generally follow that timeline that you see articulated in both of those requests for proposal.
So CJ, if I can cut to the chase here,
Yeah.
how much do you, in your opinion, how much you think we're going to need next? You're fine. How much are we going to need next year, in your opinion, for the master plan? for the pathways, park recreation trails master plan, how much you think, in your opinion, are we gonna have cash on hand to do that for next year?
That would be half the project total, I would estimate, and that would be conservative.
So we should probably do, put it in the budget that we're gonna spend 50 and maybe less. Can we just put in the 44?
Yeah.
Could we do the 44?
Yeah, I think the 44 is
And then
easier.
we can, when we put stuff in the reserve, we could go for the 25 for the balance. So we
Right.
have that
For next
flex,
year.
does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because in many ways,
Okay.
if we're talking April, by that time, we should be able to have all our numbers in.
Great,
This was,
Okay.
time well spent, my friend.
thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, is that good?
As usual, you're 100%. Is there anything else we need to ask our planner before we move on?
The only thing I want to talk about LEDs, which again, isn't something that should probably, looking at the LEDs, there's four lighting districts. One of them is the towns, the others are the individual districts, Warren Road, Ludlowville, and Lake Watch. So if we did the LEDs, they should be paying for that.
Yes, it should be in the districts.
So that would not come out of the budget,
Well, the townwide one would.
which would be very minimal. I think there's like 3 bulbs or something with the town.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I really don't see where we would need to put that in the budget. So, okay, we can move on to that one too? Crossing that off.
So,
Second page.
Well, LED is on the page, sorry. Oops. All right,
Yeah, by the way, that doesn't cover all the bundles, just, I believe it covers 60 town water, but it won't cover the decorative coat stuff, which I think are roughly correlate with the lighting districts, although I have to look up that data when I'm moving.
okay.
But then that will cover 60 of the lights, where exactly they are, I'll have to get that information from NICEAG, and we can probably pair it with the list we have from them, and then Cornell Cooperative Extension did do a streetlight inventory for us, of all the lights, and I think there's, what did we say, total 80?
when you say it's 88,
I think.
Wouldn't we have to get approval from those districts to be able to do that?
That's a good question, but I don't think this actually involves any of those districts, but I will.
Oh, it does, most of it is for them. Most of it is for the individual districts. Very small part of it is the town.
I'm not sure what the NICEAG ownership correlation is with the lighting districts. But we can find out, the CP is mapped all of it, and I think they might have a shape file they can share with me too, to say what streetlights where are they in which districts.
Great.
Any other questions about
Yeah, we
that?
can start that now. I'll make a note of that.
Okay.
One thing we're doing is the analysis of electricity saved as opposed to price to turn these into LEDs.
That's very nice.
And the savings is minimal. And I think our calculations, which we'll have in a moment.
Looking at one of the months for bills. Okay, I'm gonna do that. Okay. Warren Road District was $20 for the electricity charge out of a $520 bill. So the only thing that's gonna go down on that is the $20, which is pretty minimal.
And
That's the only part of
when
it.
you compare what the cost of to switch these over,
I'm just not sure if it's gonna
what's
be.
your payback time?
well, I looked at, she gave us numbers for the overall, and the payback time, if you let NICEAG continue to own them, was a little less than a year.
We're not talking about ownership, we're just talking about changing over the LED lights.
Right, and there's 2 proposals. One, NICEAG owns them and changes them into LEDs, and one of them is we own them and change them into LEDs.
We're all aware of that.
If you go, the numbers that CJ sent out, if NICEAG owns them and turns them into LEDs, the payback period was a little less than a year. That was the overall numbers that I was given. I don't know how it breaks down per lighting district.
I think we need to revisit these numbers. You might find it might be a little bit.
I'm just looking at the numbers I was given.
Anything else we need to talk to CJ about?
That's
I
good.
think that's good.
Going one, going twice?
Bye, CJ.
Thank you.
See you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye, my friend. Bye-bye. CJ off. Okay.
Cameras, is that what we're manufacturers?
Patrick sent out an email pertaining to the cameras also.
Yeah,
We do?
Yeah, he had done some research before. In fact, Ted Lux was voluntold to do this. And anyway, so Patrick has those numbers. He sent them out in an email to people what the options were.
I put them in there.
Okay. And once again, this is something that I think we can amount. Once again, if you want to do this, this is something that I would also have extreme input from Patrick. But that would come out of the technology reserve. Which we have 20,000 in.
I'd be okay with that. These are Patrick's numbers, and I'd be willing to go with the modest 4,000, maybe bump it up to 5,
Well.
just so we have some wiggle room there.
And that's if Ted doesn't want to do this anymore, right, Ted? Do you want to do this anymore?
I'd prefer not to.
The tingle's gone?
Just a public service I perform, but if you had it done yourself, I would be fine with me.
But it would also allow us to tape any meetings we felt like, so planning board meetings, we want to tape those, we could.
I love that you've been a public servant for so long, but you've got other things maybe you'd rather do, grandbabies and such like. So I support that.
Once again, that would just be in the resolution.
So if we're putting in the technology equipment reserve of 5,000?
I think 5,000, Patrick said 4,000 for a modest, I think we give a little bit of wiggle room on that, because these are ballpark numbers.
Right.
Is the rest of the board comfortable with that number and everything?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Onboard contractual, do we want to move it to 5,000 or leave it just like it is? We're going to have it at 3,000.
I think we're going to have at least one more board member, possibly more, coming in, and we ought to have money set aside to put the one more in training.
Over the past few years, so 2014, we spent 1,800. 15, we spent 600. 16, we spent 350. 2017 was 692. 2018 was the first year when we were over $3,600. I really don't think 3,000 is going to. If we possibly might need more than that, I'll be surprised. So I suggest that we just leave that at 3,000 and move on. But, I'm not for it.
What's changed is, as of 18, I've been going to the town, or the Association of Towns, which comes out of that also.
Right.
So we're going to just have the 2 trips, one for training for whoever replaces you.
And we potentially could have 2 new people that would need training.
Potentially
3 new people. Okay, so
We definitely have one.
somewhere
potentially.
somewhere in between there. So it's gonna be, doesn't hurt to put it in and not use it.
Was it now 3? Why don't you bump it 1,000 before?
I'm comfortable
That would
with
work for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Contingency is a very flexible account. It can be whatever you want it to be. The more you put in it, the more fund balance you're going to need to raise, or you're going to need to raise the rate. So however you want to work it.
Well, why did it drop to 0?
Because that's what we decided to leave it at this year.
Is there a reason for dropping it to 0?
No, no particular reason at all. Just did it that way. It's an account that's used for budget modifications.
So which
And
pot
if
you
you're
want?
taking money out of fund balance most of the time anyway, it's just not,
There's not much of a history here, is there?
no, because it goes down to zero as you use it. So it doesn't, all it is an account that's used, yes,
It's placeholder.
that's right.
So what, do you want the big pot of money? Do you want to put in the little pots of money?
I mean, if you want me to put money in there, I'll put money in there, it's completely up to you. I would just, it's gonna have to raise the rate, or fund balance is gonna have to be increased to keep the rate the same, whichever you want to look at. So that's.
I don't have
It's
much opinion about this.
I mean, it's just, however you wanna go with it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand it, and we talked about it a bit last year, and I'm not fully getting why it's there versus fund balance and what's the difference, and
It's an account used when you, and it could roll, if you never have to do a budget modification and you never use it, it'll just roll back into the fund balance.
I think it
But
might,
it's an account that's used to modify the budget with.
I think it was there and used way more when we didn't have all these great reserves from which to.
That's exactly
adjust
right,
the
because
budget.
there were no fund balance policy, there wasn't any reserve back when we had a big pot of money.
Right,
So when you had a
so
big pot of money, you started putting them in little pots because you
we
had,
didn't have specific reserves,
exactly right. That's
Which-
exactly, I
for
think,
which
you-
we've been
I think you hit the nail right on the
utilizing.
head.
okay, so we put 30,000 in it this year. What did we use it for, or have we?
We've used 11,000, or what was that, 19? It's been,
Give me an idea if you can.
I'd have to go back and look at the budget modifications, I don't remember off
So
the
we
top of my
haven't
head which
used it
one I
in
used it
some.
for, but it's only used to move money into another account to use, or the money's to be taken out of fund balance for the budget modification. It's kind of six to a half dozen of the other, it's the same kind of thing.
Do you have
Exactly.
an opinion?
I'm just trying to understand it.
I think it might be the primordial tale.
Okay.
All right, once again, worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, something happens and you're gonna have to pay $5,000. You're gonna come out of the big pot. And what you do though is you protect the tax rate, you don't raise the taxes unless it's for a specific reason. In this case, you already have the pot of money over here for that. You have a history of what it's being used for. And once again, I think Katrina, you hit the nail on the head, is that before we didn't have the fund balance.
It was an essential line, it was utilized a lot more.
Yeah, one time it was almost over 60 grand or something like that.
I think back in the day when I was
Yeah.
on board, it was used.
Okay, so let's move on then.
Okay, superintendent of highways, the secretary.
I spoke to Cricket about this today, and he said there's nothing been used out of it since June because the guys have been out working, out in the field. He has a couple, he puts a couple of the employees, when there's time that they work in the office, he puts it into that category. Well, since June, everybody's been out. So that's what it's used for, when he needs help.
And he's anticipating not using it that much next year. Okay, that makes sense, thank you.
State revenue sharing?
Yeah, I talked to the Association of Towns about this, and nobody really knows for sure whether we're getting this or not.
We are.
We are? Okay.
I spoke to, his name is Tim Ryan, no, it's in one of these notes here. It is, when you say convoluted, yes, you're 100% accurate on that comment. So normally we get the monies in September, but this year, the state is waiting to give it to us in December because they are getting it from the county out of our sales tax monies. So they'll get it from the county and then give it to us in December. So it will be coming to us, but it just will be coming a little bit later in the year. And I said, so, what do you think about future? Do you think I should put it in the 2020 budget or not? And he said, I can't predict the future, but I definitely, you should be taking it next year without any question. So I left it in the budget for this year.
So if they're taking it out of the county sales tax, how is that not going to reduce the sales tax money that we get from the county?
No idea. I don't really understand it.
It's an unknown.
Let's do a little segue here. You saw the sales tax revenue? What are we over last year? 77,000, something like that. I don't see that, all of a sudden, here's the sales tax money, all of a sudden you're gonna be taking less than that because that's a formula that they use. And unless they give us a heads up on that, I mean, 'cause a lot of budgets are based on that. You know,
We
that's
won't be the only screen.
Oh, we're not the, well, everyone's looking at this, shaking their head and saying, why are we taking a system?
Well, if
that
it happens,
works?
it'll be one of the few times it kind of unified. Somehow. Enjoy the moment, it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, everybody likes this except apparently Cuomo.
Moving on to machinery.
Okay, so first of all, it's DA 5130.200.
Okay.
And what had happened is that this 101, there was $71,067 that was an encumbrance from 2018 that shows up in this year's monies because it has to be carried over for it to be paid out of this year. So that's why those numbers fluctuate, is because it was that 71,000.
Is this state money that's coming, that's encumbered, or why is it encumbered?
It was in our budget from last year,
Mhm.
but we didn't receive the truck or receive the bill for the truck
Right.
until 2019. So I
Okay.
had to encumbrance the money to bring it over into 2019. So that's where that comes from.
What you can do when you have a specific purchase
Mm-hmm.
in the budget that has not been paid for yet, you can do the encumbrance.
Mhm.
Not, I hope to do this, whatever, you don't roll it over. This is why we get rid of all those TA accounts. And we're gonna flush those out, because you just can't hold money for the sake of holding money in an account.
But we had a resolution authorizing this expenditure.
In like December or
So,
something.
Once
yeah.
again, as you close the books,
Yeah.
you say, okay, geez, we got this pot of money, 90 grand, that's everything's spoken for.
Mhm. Okay.
So that takes care of that concern, right?
And it's like, you know, it's a DA, so the next question about the 90,000 for the DA equipment, you know, one account or the other, it's really not
Mhm.
make
Okay.
or break, you know, it's.
Okay, no, it's helpful, this is helping me understand what's going on here, because I'm looking and trying to understand what's changing and why. Snow removal, equipment got zeroed out?
It's the 90,000
Okay,
is,
it's in one or the other, okay.
yeah, it's.
It's in your left pocket, not your right pocket this time.
So,
Okay, the higher just for CDs that we're supposed to be getting, I forget where that.
Doing the research, I had to get a lot more money into it, and to be quite frank with you, we spent some money this year, I thought wisely, 207,000 for the land.
Mhm.
And all that, so I was very wary to put it in because the rates weren't that high,
Okay,
amongst other things. The rates are starting to creep up, so that 0.4% is starting to creep up a little bit anyways by doing nothing. And otherwise, we'd have to put in a large sum of money, like $500,000. And I wasn't really comfortable doing that, considering we had a lot of moving parts here. Once again, if you really want to put more money into the trailsway parks, I think that's more invested there, or in other things that we're going to be doing for the benefit of the town. So rather than the 1.25% of what we're going to get, I think, once again, that purchase of that land, for many reasons, I thought was very beneficial to the town.
okay, yeah, I remember you were about to put money into a CD, and I never heard how that finished up. So.
Well, and it was like, okay, now it's time, this is where reality comes into the room, and it's like, oh, we have to tie up how much? Okay, and there's so many moving parts around here that
Okay.
we have so many things going on that I think we have more benefit going over with going for the town.
in every interest revenue account,
Mhm.
I increased, because, you know, we are getting substantially more this year anyway. So most of that I doubled, because it was, you know, we're already there, so,
Mhm.
so I did increase the accounts anyway, even though it wasn't huge.
Mhm. Yeah, I just didn't realize that Ed had decided not to go forward with the CDs, and I understand why.
And I also, I believe, reached out to all of the different parties and told them that we were not doing it this
Right.
year, so we're
Everybody
going to.
does this on cause.
Yes. We already talked about the LED lights, I
Yes.
believe. Now we're into whatever else.
This is the annual thing that we seem to do, we rent cricket money to get reimbursed, and I'm wondering whether we can't just put that in the budget.
He actually, I spoke to him earlier about that today, and we normally don't find out until we're in the year, if we're going to be getting any extra monies.
Okay.
So, again, you know, it's like a grant that we don't know we're gonna get. We really can't put monies in there that we don't know we're gonna get for sure. And he actually, I'm not sure who he was speaking to, but, he's not even sure that that's ever gonna happen again in the future. So, you know, it's one of those, you know, state things where it's, you know, they might say, well, no, we're done, and,
That's an even
So-
stronger argument.
yeah, so he was just like, you know, he said, it is not guaranteed, and it's pretty much not likely to hit 2020 anyway, so.
I really heard that part strong.
Don't want to take our chances.
Yeah, well, I understand.
So, with less money.
Okay, so that covers my list.
Any questions from anybody else? So we did the calculations for the, correct me if I'm wrong, Charmaine, we did the calculations for the cap
Oh, tax cap, okay. We were over by 10,000, roughly.
because of the drainage districts.
And we had to add a drainage district this year.
Right.
So that was the majority of it, so.
I have a hard, I understand this is what the rules are, I have a hard time though, it'd be the same thing if a water district got increased, all of a sudden we're called the tax cap. Because these are self-funded districts, like the
Right.
districts. And yet for some reason that goes into calculation because it is a tax increase, and now we're over, this is why.
It shouldn't be.
I'm,
I
I
hear the
cannot.
frustration here, and I don't have a good thing to say, well, it makes sense because.
I was hoping you did, Joe. Because this is not making sense to me either, my friend. It's like, okay, you want us to do this and this and this. Okay, why don't you do it for the levy? Or why don't you do it for other things that are consistent and not predicated by each individual district, that the districts have autonomy over, and not the rest of it? And I'm not going to say the derogatory, I'm saying, okay, what the good news is that we've always had full cooperation on the board to say, we're going to override this anyway, and that way gives us flexibility. Because at the end of the day, it is what we can do to maximize the service to our residents here. Bottom line, in my opinion. So yes, that is what it is. I think if everything stays the same, what's it look, I mean, things could wiggle a little bit.
Well, actually, we've already had a decrease in the assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Village decreased by 1.7 million. And then the town, it was one resident for 43,000. But with just making that change, it didn't decrease didn't increase the rate. It's still at 1.54 ... You know, it like increased it, but didn't bring it up to 1.55. So it's still.
It's like minusculely lower or whatever, I mean. And some background here also, we're all concerned about the power plant. By the way, we just lost $15 million in 3 years over the shops.
Right, that's huge.
I don't think you're ever gonna get that back. And we should know by the end of September what NICA's gonna do with, if they're gonna allocate that power to the plant or not.
They gave them 10% what they asked for.
What?
Today?
No, about a week ago.
Um,
Same thing they did up in Niagara.
All right. That was a rumor. And Jerry did not have any confirmation 3 days ago.
Okay.
I hope you're right. But I haven't heard anything, and I'm sure I'll be the second one to know, I'll be the first one to know. These are rumors that are going around, so, and maybe you're right. I hope they get something, don't get me wrong. But I haven't heard anything yet, and usually if something like that happens, he calls right away. So having said that, once again, cumulatively, over here in 3 years, because you lose the first year, you lose the second year, that's 35 million lost from shops. And you lost 100 million over here. And we keep building as fast as we can and working with our partners, whether it be these guys, or those guys, or these guys, or those girls, or whoever. And that's what we do. And some of it is new lumber. I visited the village solars today, and they're all happy and they're cranking. I mean, you would love that project over there. They have 45 guys running around pounding and arrows, pounding around all day long. You know? Anyways. So, anything else we need to discuss?
So we want to talk about CJ's, what do you call it?
No. This is a budget thing, and I think we need to conclude for tonight,
Okay.
we need to move on. We did work on this together, I think we got some nice stuff there, but when we start to look at this stuff in the future, we need some specifics. You know, that's where it comes in the budget. What are these specifics we're shooting for down the road? With a 5-year plan or whatever, and what are the things we're actually looking for? And one thing I will plant the seed, and this came up in our discussion with the highway department, I talked to Percy about this, and because these trucks take 14 months to get to us, we may want to accelerate this and see what our money allocations are for a sprinkler system up there. That might be a priority.
Where would that money come from?
That's up to me to determine and ask the board for permission where it's going to come from. It may come from fund balance, we'll see. It may come from repairs, it may come from something else, whatever we can do with this. And it may come from part B, part from DB, depending on what the equipment is. I suspect most will come from the A fund. We have now, we will cease our evaluation need assessment, the one we contracted out with, and now we'll talk to CJ about maybe going with somebody else for a different need assessment. There's not any negative discussions as far as what was, could not have been, because that person may be used in the future in a different capacity. So I thank him for his service, we look forward to the bill so we can pay him in October 16th. And then from there, we'll see what the real need assessment is, because I think also Crickett's had some time to get his feet on the ground to say, what do we really need here, and maybe work with somebody in a different capacity as far as that goes. So what is the real need of it or not? The other things that we did have these leases here, which we can use some of that money to put back in a pocket in the repair reserve. We're going to need windows up at that new place up there that we bought, the old town hall or town barn, and also a new roof eventually. Those are things I think that we can put those in now. Now maybe next year, maybe we'll wait a year because it's still be functional. And then once again, need assessment is okay. In 2 or 3 years or 5 years, what do you do your 5-year plan? To put a second bathroom in and make it accessible like we do with the ball fields up there. Those are part of perhaps what you're making reference to with your 5-year plan. Those are things we can allocate and to have a methodical way to go forward. That part I see to implement that. I don't see it implementing with our equipment because we've already addressed that. But this type of thing where there is a need, it seems to be something that there's some clarity with, I think that can be addressed sooner than later to put in a plan how we want to do this in the future, get an estimate what that bathroom would be, what it would cost to do this, or add on. Other than that, if nothing else, good meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For
Join the meeting. We're all good. Thank you.